The morning after the night before, Liam Rosenior is gone, Callum is at the wheel, but we are getting all sorts of news. We are getting names that are in line for the job. We are getting names that are being ruled out. We are finding out about things that went on in the dressing room, names that Liam Rosenior was being called, stuff about Blueco learning their lessons, but also supposedly nothing is coming down on the sporting directors. Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC, and it is, the transfer window has come early for us as Chelsea fans, hasn't it? Normally the excitement doesn't start until after the season's ended, but we are right in it now. But guys, before we get into it, if you are enjoying my content and would like to see more, please do me the distinct honour of liking and sharing the video, subscribe to the channel, or just roast me in the comments, whatever gets you through your day. And I'm super close to 2,000 subs, like 60 odd to go. Like, click that subscribe button, let's go! Right, that's it, man. There's so much to get into, so let's start with names in the frame. PYS posted this via Ben Jacobs. Androni Iraola expected to be one of the leading names Chelsea approach. Admirers in the club for Eddie Howe, Edin Terzic, Francesco Farioli, and Felipe Luis. So, man, this is so much to get into, man. This is wild. So I did a live stream yesterday with Kai from Behind the Dugouts. We were talking about names that were going to be in the frame, and I think Androni Iraola feels like the leading target. It makes the most sense, I guess, at the moment. It's not necessarily the sexiest appointment, but at the end of the day, he's got Premier League experience. He did really well with the Bournemouth team that got stripped every single season. So there are some reasons to think why Iraola would work. Also, is he good enough? Like, I'm a little bit concerned about the Thomas Frank effect, right? Because Thomas Frank's stock was particularly high when he went to Tottenham, and he's essentially played a massive part in getting them relegated. So look, the closer we get to the names, the more I will dig deep into the type of, the managers that we're looking at and how they might work with the team, and especially with how the team might change in the future. Iraola makes sense. He's been really good at Bournemouth. Obviously, he's already announced that he's leaving at the end of the season. I think they've already lined up their replacement as well. Now, what's really interesting in this is, because we all know about Iraola, a couple of the other names that have been thrown around. Eddie Howe. Eddie Howe. I didn't even consider Eddie Howe, but I'm not going to lie to you, I guess it kind of makes sense. There has been noise around Eddie Howe and Newcastle for quite a long time now. He's obviously done an amazing job at Newcastle. Like, yes, they've struggled a little bit. Obviously, they've had a difficult season after losing Isaac, but when you look at Eddie Howe's tenure at Newcastle, he's done really well. He speaks well. He was considered for the England job as well. Obviously, Thomas Tuchel ended up getting it, and obviously he was still at Newcastle. But Eddie Howe's a really interesting one, so let me know what you think about that in the comments. Edin Terzic, I don't know a huge amount about him at the moment, other than the fact that he's currently without a job, and he was the Borussia Dortmund manager. So we just PTSD from people coming over from the German league and failing to hit the ground running, right? Vis-a-vis Christophe Nkunku, Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, Jamie Gittins, do you know what I mean? Now, those are all obviously players, and Thomas Tuchel had obviously spent a lot of time in the German league and done quite well as well. Francesco Farioli, he is currently the Porto manager, which is quite interesting because Porto have been pretty good with him for the last few seasons now. He is supposedly a lot more of a defensive coach, and he likes inverted midfielders from fullback as well. So I guess that kind of fits like the team that they've started to build, albeit he does put more emphasis on the defensive side of things, quite a young manager as well. And Felipe Luis also currently without a job. I didn't realise that until yesterday. I thought he was still at Flamengo, but he was actually sacked in March. But there's been a lot of admiration across football tacticos everywhere for the job that he did at Flamengo, and also, again, a very young manager. Another couple of names in the frame. Transfer Live posted this earlier today. Xavi is among the candidates to replace Liam Rosenior at Chelsea as head coach. Interesting, because he does have winning experience. Obviously, he won the league with Barcelona. He obviously, is one of the protogens of passing football, being that he was in that absolutely historic, iconic Pep Guardiola team. So, yeah, I like Xavi. Could he cut it in the Premier League? I don't know. It's really weird, isn't it? Because it's like, you would have thought he's won a league title in Spain, which is really, really impressive. And it's not like there's no competition there. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, Real Madrid are normally the ones that they're going up against, but every now and again, Atletico Madrid do kick in. Xavi, interesting shout. And again, I'd like to know what you think about that in the comments. Youngish manager, passing football, but his last managerial job was in Saudi Arabia, and he didn't do that well there. So, maybe it was a case of like it worked for him at Barcelona because he's so Barcelona. But again, tell me what you think. And another one, Chelsea Dodgers posted this via Sammy Mockbell from the BBC. Marco Silva is set to be a candidate for the Chelsea position. The fact that he's represented by agent Jorge Mendes, who has a close relationship with Chelsea's ownership, would also ease any move for Silva. Not sure about this one. I think Marco Silva has done a good job at Fulham, don't get me wrong, but have I seen enough to be like, get me this guy? Like when we're talking about Iraola, for instance, and Glasner, although Glasner wasn't on this list, I imagine he's probably one of the names being thought about, or maybe not, because he's not popping up in the news. But either way, those guys is like recency. You can see, Glasner obviously won the FA Cup with Crystal Palace, which was amazing. Got really good performances out of attacking talents like Elise and Eze, and more recently Jean-Philippe Mateta. Marco Silva, I don't know. Marco Silva's done well with Fulham at the end of the day, and he's just across the road, so he wouldn't have to move very far. But again, I'm not super hyped about this one. But I guess it's it's something for consideration. But I don't know. It's like, what's the difference between Iraola and Fulham? Like, I just think Iraola strikes me as a better manager. And would I rather Marco Silva than the likes of Felipe Luis or Xavi? Probably not. But again, if you know any more about Marco Silva than I do and why he might fit the team, get it in the comments. Right, so that's a little bit about the managers that we are looking at, but let's talk about the ones that we're not. And some of these are a little bit of a gut punch for me personally. So PYS posted this. As it stands, Cesc Fabregas is completely committed to Como's project. He's my number one pick, man. He's my number one top guy. For me, there's so many reasons. Before we got Rosenior, I wanted Fabregas. I remember even when we had Maresca, I was doing a live stream on the Blue Lounge with Mo ages and ages ago, and this is when Maresca had started to do badly, and we were just throwing it around. Like, a couple of people said Xavi at the time as well, actually, and I was like, get me Cesc Fabregas. I just think he's the guy. I think what he's done at Como is absolutely amazing. From his first job as an interim manager to get them promoted for the first time in 20 years, sixth in his first season, Champions League now, but it is difficult for two reasons. Reason one, obviously, getting into the Champions League with Como with very little money, like there's a lot of good feeling there at the moment, and he'll be really loving that job. The other thing is he's also a part owner of the club, so he's not just committed to the managerial footballing side of it, he also has a vested interest in the club's success. PYS continues, this one I'm not particularly surprised about, and I didn't really want it either, to be honest. Enzo Maresca won't return to Chelsea. No chances of any sort of reunion. Like, obviously he walked, do you know what I mean? He walked. I've seen a couple of guys in my comments and on live streams and stuff being like, get Enzo Maresca back, and I'm like, nah, man, nah. I think that is romanticising things. 100% that is romanticising things. He did well for us, don't get me wrong, but I just, I think that he was getting, albeit not nearly as bad as Liam Rosenior, but he was getting bad results as well. Do you know what I mean? We were really struggling to beat teams that we should have beat. The football was boring and turgid. I think we need to get a little bit away from this, like, your centre-backs having the ball 60% of the game and funneling it out to the wingers and passing back and all this, that needs to go, man. We need to play some sort of very slightly more aggressive, fast-paced sort of football, and I don't think Enzo Maresca would be a good shout for that. PYS also posted, Julian Nagelsmann is not interested in taking over Chelsea. Now, this one sucks because I think he would probably be the best candidate if he was interested at all, based on his experience. He's a young modern manager, but he's got experience winning the league with Bayern Munich. He's managing an international team at the moment. But it does make sense. He's already turned us down once, right? I think it was when we got Pochettino, we interviewed Julian Nagelsmann, and Chelsea said they weren't interested in him, but Nagelsmann's camp came out and said we turned them down, and I can imagine he just wouldn't be a fan of the project. He definitely wants some experience in his team, and although that is what is being said at Chelsea at the moment, not necessarily, we'll have to wait and see. But either way, Julian Nagelsmann would be great. Like, I think he'd be a great option, but, not interested, and this wouldn't be the first time he turned us down. So that's the managers that we're talking about looking at getting in, and the ones that currently are kind of ruling themselves out. So let me know what you think. Who is your number one choice to take over? How do you feel about Iraola? Would you be interested in someone like a Felipe Luis or Farioli from Porto, a more unknown manager, or would we be better off, even if it's not a top tier winning manager, getting someone who's got Premier League experience? So Blue Co have obviously got little bits to say. It's all been coming out. Like, so the PR machine is in full force at the moment. And PYS posted these couple of tweets via Fabrizio Romano. Chelsea is still appealing to several important managers. Conversations will start immediately in order to find the next manager. The next manager will lead a slightly different project, adding some experienced players in the summer. So they're doubling down on this message, man. And I believe it. Like, call me what you want, man. I absolutely believe it. I had a really interesting chat with Kai yesterday about what experience means. Experience doesn't mean necessarily 28 to 30-year-old players. Do you know what I mean? Experience means, like, it needs to be less Garnachos and Jamie Gittins and more Marc Cucurella and João Pedro. Marc Cucurella, João Pedro, although Brighton, do you know what I mean? And one of the players we're linked with is also from Brighton. Maybe we're just going to go and raid Brighton for loads more players. But I think that there is a middle ground between buying kids with loads of potential and buying players yet to enter their prime that are performing well in the Premier League. You know, I talked about it yesterday, the likes of Mario and Jan-Paul van Heck. Do you know what I mean? It's like these are experienced players that maybe have that emotional stability that Liam Rosenior was talking about a little while ago. PYS moves on with this tweet. There were some unhappy players at Chelsea, and this next manager is going to be important to try and get them to be more happier. So don't love the way that's written. The grammar nerd in me is like, oh, more happier, no. But at the same time, this is also a really important thing, right? Because you got to think about like Marco Correa not happy at the moment. Enzo Fernandez probably still got one eye out the door. We've just signed up and locked down Reece James and Moises Caicedo for another little while, which is cool. But you know there are some questions. You know we got Marco Correa's only got 2 years left on his deal. That is a really big one for me. Do you know what I mean? It's like whoever comes in next, I really want Marco Correa in particular to be like, yes, I like this guy. But it is true because I don't think we'll be looking at a mass exodus of our most important players in the summer either way. I just think it won't be that much of an overhaul, but you know, the Marco Correa is a prime candidate to be sold if he doesn't sign a new deal. And I will imagine if any conversations are being had around Marco Correa at the moment, he is going to hold off until another manager is chosen. And hopefully the manager that we get is one that the players like. And it's not necessarily like him as a person, but you respect instantly. Do you know what I mean? And that was the issue with Liam Rosenior, which we're going to get onto a little bit later. So yeah, kind of echoing this, PYS said again, some Chelsea players are waiting to understand who the next coach will be in order to see if they're happy or not with Chelsea's long-term project. The new manager choice will be very important to discuss with some crucial players to make sure they're happy long term. So yeah, that was from the Here We Go podcast from Fabrizio Romano. Basically echoing the same thing again, just a little bit more fleshed out. But yeah, it is super important that our best players, Cole Palmer, João Pedro, even the likes of Estevan Willian and stuff, do you know what I mean? Because he's got to be like, I need to develop well under whoever the next coach is, so it needs to be someone with some experience in one way or another. Liam Rosenior, it's not that he didn't have any experience, but it wasn't enough experience and it wasn't at the right level, do you know what I mean? So, you know, and I do worry a little bit about this because we're not talking about loads of managers, you know, in the list that I went through before. The only winning manager in terms of big things was Julian Nagelsmann, who's kind of said no. Xavi won stuff at Barcelona, but obviously didn't do particularly well in Saudi Arabia. Felipe Luis won the Brazilian league, but is that enough? I mean, Felipe Luis would obviously be quite good for the Brazilian contingent in general, I guess, because, you know, not only is he Brazilian, he's also won in Brazil, so he'll understand the culture really, really well. But yeah, either way, those are the sorts of things, as well as like, what's your tactical approach? What's your vision? There needs to be man management and experience, and winning mentality needs to be really evident from the start, whoever we pick. So some more PR from Blueco. PYS posted this via Ben Jacobs. Chelsea are acknowledging that some wrong decisions have been made, not just in appointing Rosenior, but across the season, with lessons now being taken ahead of hiring a new coach. So, look, yeah, and this is the thing, isn't it? It's not just about, in isolation, looking at Liam Rosenior didn't work out. It's not even really just about this season. It is about, you know, the decisions that have been made. We need to zoom out. We need to look at all the bad decisions that have been made, and they need to start being rectified. Obviously, getting Liam Rosenior wasn't a great appointment, and he didn't have the experience to bring it over to the Premier League. That's one thing. But also, they should have backed Maresca when he said, I need a centre-back. Do you know what I mean? It's a small thing, but at the end of the day, that could have made a massive difference. They need to, whoever they get next, they can't run this project in spite of the manager. That's the thing, you know, or the coach. Like, whoever the coach is needs to be able to imprint some of his vision. And the thing is, Liam Rosenior was just a yes man. Liam Rosenior is yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir. And he wouldn't have complained. Do you know what I mean? He wouldn't have been, he wouldn't have come out and been like, get me a centre back, or I need this, or I need that. It's like, he's obviously worked for Blueco already, and they will have said, this is what you're getting. He'd have gone, thanks guys, let's go. But we need someone with a little bit more character than that, and we need someone who is going to come in and say, Garnacho is not good enough, get rid of him, get me someone else. Do you know what I mean? Not across the whole team, but there are going to be like, you know, the centre-back situation obviously really needs sorting out, but whoever comes in next, they're going to have to be allowed to imprint their identity on the team. The best managers in the world all do that. Do you know what I mean? The best managers in the world, like, no one wins leagues without any sort of imprint of their identity on the squad. Do you know what I mean? So that is really, really important. And I just hope, like, there's so many issues, there's so many mistakes, and there's so many problems for Blueco and the sporting directors to look at hopefully they're finally going to be able to be like, yeah, okay, do you know what, we've done this wrong, let's try and get it right next time. So we're going to move on to start talking about Liam Rosenior, what happened behind the scenes, why the players weren't happy, and some of the things that ultimately, other than not even just the losses, it's not just about the losses were a symptom of the problem behind the scenes, right? And it wasn't just about, Liam Rosenior's tactical nous or whatever, he did pretty well at Strasbourg, right? And that's because he had the dressing room and he was able to imprint his ideas or whatever. He's dealing with bigger egos, bigger players, superstars, Cole Palmer's, Enzo Fernandez, all of these kind of guys, really, really big players. So we're going to talk a little bit about Liam Rosenior and the downfall, right? PYS posted this via Ben Jacobs. Sources say several senior players lost faith in Rosenior and that Chelsea had to make a change. So that's the sweeping statement, right? And it's one that we've been echoing on this channel for a little while and one we've been seeing around quite a lot recently anyway. He lost the dressing room, man. He lost the dressing room. He wasn't able to galvanise the players. He wasn't able to get the players to respect him, and that was so evident. Kai made a great point yesterday. How many times are we seeing players walk straight off the pitch, go straight down the tunnel, not go over to the fans, ignore Liam Rosenior's handshakes when he comes off and stuff? Like, we were seeing it out in the open, do you know what I mean? The amount of time that players were having to go back and apologise to the rest of the squad for the way that they acted out after games was absolutely ridiculous. So it's just been evident since the PSG game, if not a little bit before that Liam Rosenior did not have the respect of these players, and ultimately that was always going to make the performances worse. Do you know what I mean? They were playing in spite of the fact that they were unhappy with how things were going. So PYS also posted this via Ben Jacobs. Ben Jacobs all over it today, by the way. Absolutely love it. Inside Liam Rosenior's sacking, several senior players unhappy with tactics and training sessions. Some players felt Enzo Fernandez's punishment was too harsh. Players didn't like being attacked in post-match interviews despite poor games. So I find that one quite interesting, actually, and we'll go through all these one at a time. First, several senior players unhappy with tactics and training sessions. So instantly the obvious one that comes to mind is Robert Sanchez playing out from the back made everything else really, really wobbly, right? Really, really wobbly. And Liam Rosenior unfortunately stuck through that. And even to the point where he dropped Robert Sanchez, put Philip Jorgensen in. Obviously, we got the Aston Villa result, which was great, but then the PSG drubbing happened. We just got cut open through midfield. The press was so high that we got caught out so many times. So you can imagine that the tactics weren't necessarily suiting the players because we weren't really focused on defensive solidity. He was like that at Strasbourg as well. Like, they scored a reasonable amount of goals, but they conceded a lot as well. Do you know what I mean? So the problem is we don't have enough. It's not that we don't have the attacking talent, but they're not ready, or they're not good enough right now, or in that kind of form and have that kind of chemistry in order to be able to rely on outscoring teams. And we know that because we haven't scored a goal in like 5 games. Do you know what I mean? And we conceded like 20. Absolutely ridiculous. Next one, some players felt Enzo Fernandez's punishment was harsh. Now, there was a lot of news circling around all of that, saying that the players had actually tried to get Liam Rosenior to change that to allow Enzo Fernandez to play in the Man City game, because at the end of the day, regardless of whatever we think of Enzo Fernandez, he is categorically one of our best players at the moment, and potentially could have given us an opportunity to get a goal in that game at least. I mean, we probably still would have lost, but we might have scored had Enzo Fernandez been there. So I actually respected Liam Rosenior at the time for not backing down on that, because at the end of the day, like, I didn't like what Enzo Fernandez did with the whole coming out and flirting with Real Madrid thing. Like, it's just not proper, is it, man? It's like, yeah, fair enough. If you want to go to Madrid, the club will probably do what they can to make that happen for you. But what he was trying to do by that was reduce his price, essentially. Do you know what I mean? He was trying to do it on his terms rather than going to the club and being like, I want to leave. So I don't necessarily disagree with punishing Enzo Fernandez. But now with all of this coming out, it looks a little bit more petulant from Liam Rosenior to do that, because it was much more, if he was losing the dressing room, he'd already lost the dressing room. Now it was a power play. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't just about punishing Enzo Fernandez because the way he wasn't conducive to squad culture. Now it looks like he was doing it because he knew he lost the dressing room, and he was trying to strike some fear into the team, being like, this could happen to any of you if you don't stay in line. And ultimately, as we're going to get to like in a minute with some of the funny stuff, Liam Rosenior didn't have the respect of the players and was trying to win it through fear. So yeah, bit of a weird one, man. But I still think the right thing to do from any manager's point would not have been to play Enzo Fernandez in that game after you've sanctioned him. If you didn't sanction him in the first place, then whatever, do you know what I mean? But they made the sanction, they had to stick to it, otherwise he would have looked even weaker. But like I say, now, unfortunately, it looks like he was just swinging his piece about, do you know what I mean? Trying to get some order in the squad, and obviously it wasn't going to work. Last one, I think is a bit wild. Players don't like being attacked in post post-match interviews despite poor games. Like, Maresca was awful for this, man. Maresca was calling people out by name as well. Do you know what I mean? The worst Liam Rosenior ever was for... I mean, I can only even really remember it happening a couple of times. There was a game where we conceded a corner, and he said that some players were not doing their tactical assignments, their tactical defending assignments, and it looked like it was Andre Santos because he played every game up until then and then basically stopped playing after that. So that was one. And in the aftermath of the Brighton game, he came out and he was just like, the players were awful. Do you know what I mean? But he wasn't actually calling people out by name in particular. And Enzo Maresca did that, man. Enzo Maresca just savaged Wesley Fofana, being like, Wesley Fofana can't play this position. He savaged Benoit Badiashile. He savaged Moises Caicedo in a game. Do you know what I mean? Enzo Maresca literally called players out individually. So this isn't new. And I do find that unusual. But also, it's like I think it's good. Liam Rosenior absorbed a lot of the pressure from the players. Do you know what I mean? A lot of the pressure from the bad performances, and the conversation for the last few weeks hasn't really been about the players as much as it has been about Liam Rosenior. So look, he's gone, and I'm glad he's gone, and because I think he's obviously not good enough. But at the same time, I find that a little bit disingenuous because much more so than Maresca did, he actually absorbed a lot of the pressure, and I think the players would have been highlighted a lot more had Rosenior not done so many ridiculous, cringeworthy things in order to take that attention onto himself. So, Chelsea Dodgers posted this via Nazar Kinsella. Sources close to several Chelsea players have confirmed that Liam Rosenior began to lose authority as he attempted to implement more of his own ideas. And we can literally kind of see the moment that happened. So, Liam Rosenior's first run of 10 games, he got like 8 wins in 10 games. It was good. Do you know what I mean? And there was the comeback at Napoli. We were conceding a lot of goals and stuff, like no clean sheets since January. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely outrageous. But he didn't rip up the book initially, do you know what I mean? And I remember having loads of conversations in and around that at the time when he started changing the tactics, being like, surely the rest of the running for the season is so important. Keep doing what works with the players that you've got, and then we'll look at your style in the summer. When we've got more players, you've got a pre-season, you've got more time to do it. But unfortunately, he didn't do it that way. He got that first 2-week break. I think, it was when we qualified for the next round of the Champions League without having to go into a playoff for it, right? We had a week or two of just one game a week. And that was the first time we'd had that since he was there and since a really long time before there. After that break, and that's when all of this nonsense started to happen with playing out from the back and Robert Sanchez and Philip Jorgensen, and we started just kind of leaking goals all over the place. And game after game after game, he didn't really seem to try and change that either. Obviously, he played a back five against Brighton, but it's too little too late at that point, isn't it? You've already lost the players. So, yeah, I can understand why the players started to lose respect if they were getting drubbed in these games and it obviously wasn't working, and they're obviously not set up to be able to play this way that he wants to play without reinforcement, but he still made them keep doing it anyway. And at the end of the day, the players were the ones out there getting these goals shipped past them. They should be accountable, don't get me wrong, the players absolutely should be accountable, but it does make sense that Liam Rosenior's unflinching dedication to his style of play in the face of getting smacked up game after game after game was probably quite difficult for the players to swallow. Chelsea Dodgers also posted this via Nazar Kinsella. Key Liam Rosenior tactical decisions also came under scrutiny. Moises Caicedo was said to be covering too much ground following a shift from a double pivot to defensive midfielders to a single pivot. So that's an interesting one as well, because when Maresca was in, he was inverting fullbacks. So yeah, Enzo Fernandez started deep, got forward, right? But that was, Moises Caicedo was supplemented by another midfielder for the most part. Do you know what I mean? Whether it be Marco Correa, Reece James, or a Malagusto, he had some support in that midfield role, right? And obviously, as I just said as well, for those like first 10 games or whatever, Andre Santos was playing every single game. Do you know what I mean? Andre Santos was playing all the games. So at the beginning, he had like, that kind of support in the midfield. But then all of a sudden, Moises Caicedo apparently is not particularly happy with having all of this pressure put on him at the end of the day. And look, Moises Caicedo is an amazing player on his day, and we saw the best of him so far under Maresca for sure. But yeah, that's an interesting one that apparently he overused Moises Caicedo in that midfield role. He's not N'Golo Kante at the end of the day. You can do that with N'Golo Kante, but Moises Caicedo, although they're similar, is a different kind of player. So I found that one really, really interesting. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. So that's kind of the reasons that Liam Rosenior was ousted. A lot of the behind the scenes stuff. There's a little bit more that we're going to get into in a minute that's quite quite funny and also tragic at the same time. But just before that, this one from PYS via Sky Sports News. Sky Sports understand there was a break clause in Liam Rosenior's contract and will not be due hefty compensation. That would have been wild. He's been here for 4 months and he had a 6.5-year deal. Can you imagine if we'd have had to pay that out? Oh, mate, that would have been crazy. But this is how Blueco roll with their contracts, isn't it? At the end of the day, we saw it with Maresca as well. Do you know what I mean? Maresca walked and there was a break clause at the end of the day, so we didn't, you know. And the thing is, if they'd have sacked him, maybe he'd have got that. But because Maresca chose to walk, there wasn't a massive payout. And obviously with Liam Rosenior coming in, when they're doing the contract negotiations, they've been like, if we sack you in the next year, it probably was 12 months, wasn't it? Then you're not going to be due any compensation for the rest of your deal. He probably backed himself to last longer than a year. Unfortunately, 3.5 months. Absolutely crazy. So no big payout for Liam Rosenior. So, do you remember when Graham Potter was in charge? And just after he got sacked, what started coming out was stuff the players were saying about him on the training ground, right? And one of the things in particular was something to do with Harry Potter. Do you know what I mean? So when you're hearing stories about players taking the mick out of the manager, that's not good, man. That's not good. And what we've got right here, one player gave Liam Rosenior the nickname the supply teacher. It is Graham Potter vibes all over again. And if there is one thing that tells you a manager has lost the dressing room, it's nicknames, man. It's nicknames. That is not good at all. PYS also posted this via Miguel Delaney. Some players couldn't help but indulge in the unfair commentary. Sources say some comments surrounded Liam Rosenior's decision not to wear his glasses at the training ground. One or two joked about whether it was to look tougher. So look, mate, like, this is the sort of stuff that when we were saying, has he lost the dressing room? Like, this is that. Do you know what I mean? This is literally what that is. He was getting ribbed. No respect at all. Absolutely no respect. And at the end of the day, we have a very young squad. Do you know what I mean? Young people are going to make jokes, man, especially if they're not happy. It was their only way to get out of it. And the thing is, like, look at the type of things we're talking about as well. The supply teacher, no respect. There's zero respect in that insult in itself. And players joking about whether he's trying to look tougher. And this kind of harkens back to what I was saying before about Liam Rosenior not playing Enzo Fernandez in the Man City game because he was trying to win respect. He was trying to instill fear, and there was none. They just obviously didn't fear him at all. Like Jose Mourinho doesn't ever get any of this. Do you know what I mean? Doesn't get. Jose Mourinho is your best mate and your worst nightmare all rolled into one package. Liam Rosenior, like Graham Potter, tried too hard to be someone that he's not. Do you know what I mean? And to be that guy that is feared a little bit and, you know, respect through fear. And he's just not a very scary bloke, is he? So yeah, I thought that was brutal, man. That's brutal, isn't it? But at the end of the day, it just shows you how far things fell, because like it's rare that you hear things about players taking the mick out of the manager after they've been sacked. And we've heard it twice with Graham Potter and Liam Rosenior. And as much as I didn't want to believe up until quite recently that Liam Rosenior was as bad as Graham Potter, the results and this all just stick to the same thing, man. Character is so important in football. Respect in life. Respect is so important. Do you know what I mean? Some people naturally can manage through fear. Do you know what I mean? Some people can't. And if you can't, play to your strengths. Put your arm around people, whatever it is. But don't try and be the biggie big man. Do you know what I mean? So that is something that they need to identify in the data for the next manager. Like, if you're not that kind of guy, don't try and be that kind of guy. And we're going to wrap up today's very long video. This is a long one, guys. I hope you all are enjoying it and sticking around. And it pertains to the sporting directors, because obviously what has been, you know, Liam Rosenior has been sacked, and lots of people are like, it doesn't matter if Liam Rosenior gets sacked because of the sporting directors that we've got at the moment. Nothing's going to change. Nothing's going to improve. So I am not super hopeful that the sporting directors are going to be changed anytime soon. I imagine they will have at least this summer transfer window to fix things up and make things right. And then if things aren't working by January next season, I think we'll probably start seeing stuff about the sporting directors, because they can go at any time, can't they? But the issue is, like, how do you target a sporting director? Do you know what I mean? It's like, how do you go and get a new sporting director? Or have we got too many? Like, there's so many questions. So PYS posted this via the Guardian Sport. There is still backing from above for Chelsea's 5 sporting directors: Paul Winstanley, Lawrence Stewart, Sam Jewell, Joe Shields and Dave Fallows. Plans in the summer include bringing in more established Premier League talent. So this will be interesting because this is going to be Dave Fallow's first transfer window with us. And he was the guy that got Andy Robertson and Mo Salah at Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? He identified reasonably low-cost, high-potential players that added to the squad and obviously turned into world-beaters. So I'd be interested to see how much effect Dave Fallows have. And when I'm hearing all of this PR about experienced players, like Dave Fallows is the guy that could potentially find those sorts of gems. We're not talking about 19-year-old kids, 24 to 25-year-old players with experience and the right mentality, like Mo Salah, like Andy Robertson. They came in and they absolutely transformed that team. And they, Sadio, I think he had something to do with Sadio Mane and Firmino as well. So, he was a big part of building Liverpool's really, really, really successful team. As far as the rest of them go, don't know, man. What I do find interesting about this in particular is this is the first time that we're seeing something come out saying that there is backing for them. Like, think about like when we had Graham Potter and things were going badly. They always came out and said, Graham Potter's being backed, and he got sacked. We saw it with Liam Rosenior over the last few weeks. We back Liam Rosenior, now he's been sacked. The very fact that they're coming out and saying that there is backing probably means that they're being scrutinised, right? So, although I don't think it's going to happen soon, I think that they'll get this transfer window because they've made their plans for it, and supposedly they're identifying the things that need to change in the immediate future in order to get sporting success. I think, like I say, the fact that there's even anything coming out suggesting that they're being backed is probably indicative that they are being scrutinised and they are on a timer. So, I think they've got this window to save their jobs, essentially, and it might not be all of them, do you know what I mean? But I don't even know, do you know what I mean? It's so difficult because we've got so many sporting directors, and that in itself is reasonably unprecedented. Normally you've got one guy at the top, do you know what I mean? And he kind of, everyone like reports to him, but we've got co-head sporting directors, and we've got, guys that do scouting and guys that do youth stuff, and Dave Fallows has just come in with a different role. But they've all been given quite a lot of power in their own respective fields. So it is really interesting, but I do think that probably, like I say, I think that means that the writing might be on the wall for the sporting directors should they not really turn things around in the summer. So guys, that is it. Woo, that was a big one, man. This is a big, big video. I hope you all are feeling better than I am. No, do you know what? I'm feeling pretty good, man. I'm feeling pretty good. It's just nice to actually talk about something interesting. When stuff like this happens, hope spills in. Do I think that Callum McFarlane is the guy that is going to get us into Europe and win us the FA Cup? No, I don't think so. I've got my sights firmly set on next season, to be honest. But at the same time, it's all fine and good putting out the PR and talking the talk, but it's time to walk the walk now. The ownership. Look, it's not even just about the ownership. It's about the shareholders, right? The shareholders are going to be looking at the ownership right now, and we've got the protest. Things are really, really bad. Like we had this golden opportunity at the back end at the start of the season, the back end of last season. We won the Conference League. We won the Club World Cup. We should have got a sponsor for the shirt for the whole season. We could have gone in and bought these experienced players right then, but they didn't do it. They wasted it, and we brought in lots and lots and lots and lots of young talent instead. So the issue now is it's more of an uphill struggle to get the kind of players that we want, because last season we had 2 trophies in Champions League football. That was the golden opportunity to have the kind of summer that we need to have now, that we're going to probably have no trophies and very, very likely no Champions League football. If Callum McFarlane gets us into Champions League football, give him a statue etched into Chelsea folklore. But at the same time, like, this is it, man. This is it. Do you know what I mean? This summer needs to be absolutely huge now. It's not even just about players we got to bring in. We have to get so many players out. We need to sell so many players. We've got 6 centre-backs and 4 of them aren't good enough to be here. Do you know what I mean? Absolutely wild. So, guys, that is it. I'm going to wrap it up there. Don't forget, I'm on the road to 2,000 subs. I'm so close. I can taste it. I'm absolutely loving this. Even though it's been a nightmare being a Chelsea fan this season, I am really, really enjoying my first season as a content creator. And if I can sign it off with 2K subs, I will consider that a job well done. Nice one, guys. Thank you very much for sticking around until the end of the video. I hope to catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.